let's discuss Donald Trump's and his administration transgender military ban. Disclaimer, those of you who have been following me know that I recently came out in October of last year as trans masculine, FTM, female to male. I identify as a trans masculine, transgendered man, transgendered person. And I know there's going to be people who view this who do not agree with transgendered LGBTQ plus community. I know people who are not going to agree with it and don't agree with it and won't agree with me and won't support me. And what I'm learning is that's fine. As crazy as it may seem, that is fine. We're not meant to agree with everything, and we're not meant to disagree with everything. So moving forward, let's talk about the transgender military ban that the Supreme Court is allowing to go into effect. So this is being brought to, I'm going to go to a few different websites, because something that I've learned, especially as I'm leaving the Democratic Party and I want to look at political parties from a more centered angle, because I've noticed when you go to CNN and MSNBC, you're going to get more of a liberal left-wing agenda. When you go to Fox, you're going to get more of a right-wing agenda. So I'm going to try to go to different ones to show different perspectives. So we're on CNN, which I remember back in the day, like 10 years ago, when CNN was supposed to be the centered one, but anyways, Supreme Court allows transgender military ban to go into effect. Washington CNN, the Supreme Court allowed President Donald Trump's transgender military ban to go into effect on Tuesday, today, dealing a blow to LGBT activists who call the ban cruel and irrational. The justices did not rule on the merits of the case, but will allow the ban to go forward while the lower courts work through it. The 4 liberal justices on the court objected to allowing the administration's policy banning most transgender people from serving in the military to go into effect. The policy, first announced by the president in July 2017 via Twitter, and later officially released by then Secretary of Defense James Mattis in 2018, blocks individuals who have been diagnosed with a condition known as gender dysphoria from serving, with limited exceptions. It also specifies that individuals without the condition can serve, but only if they do so according to the sex they were assigned at birth. So for example, I was assigned female at birth, even though I do not identify as a woman. A statement released after the SCOTUS decision, the Supreme Court of the United States, decision to allow the ban to go forward, the Pentagon sought to clarify that its policy is not a ban on all transgender persons from the military. Let's talk about that. This is what I mean by the confusion that so many people in the LGBTQ plus community are feeling. So many people who identify as transgendered or on the spectrum, whether you're non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender fluid, gender queer, trans masculine, trans feminine. It's confusing because you have the Supreme Court of the United States of America saying that it's okay to go forward with the ban. But at the same time, they haven't ruled on it yet. They're letting the lower courts work through it. It's like, what's the point of allowing the ban if there really is no court ruling on it? And then what's the point of allowing the ban if even the Pentagon is trying to clarify the policy, and they even stated, ought to clarify that its policy is not a ban on all transgender persons from the military. Even they're sitting here like, well, damn, we don't want to lose valuable, viable service men and women, service people. That's what's about to happen, essentially, because now, say if I wanted to join the military, which I have thought about it, I'm not going to be able to join unless I deny my identity as a transgendered person, as a trans masculine man. I'm going to have to go by assigned female at birth, AFAB, or assigned male at birth, AMAB. So you have to go by the assigned, the sex that you were assigned at birth. Okay, so I want to talk about who is affected by the Supreme Court of the United States decision. After Trump called for a ban on transgender persons serving in the military. At the time, his Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, directed Patrick Shanahan, the then Deputy Secretary of Defense. If you notice, none of these people have these jobs anymore, which this has seemed to be the thing with President Trump. Like, most of the people that have been appointed by him or by people in his administration no longer work in those positions, or they've personally stepped down. So to me, there's a lot of confusion and turmoil going on there. But anyways, Patrick Shanahan, the then Deputy Secretary of Defense. So we've had multiple, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Paul Selva, to develop the implementation plan in 2017, going on 2 years ago. Shanahan is now serving as Acting Secretary of Defense, replacing James Mattis. Excuse me. Monday's order from the Supreme Court puts the so-called Mattis policy in effect for now. Most transgender persons are now disqualified for military service, except service members who have been stable for 3 years in their biological sex prior to joining the military, meaning 36 months after completion of surgery and hormone treatments, which for transgender people, there is the option to medically and physically transition. So some people in the trans community under the transgender umbrella will be on hormone replacement therapy or will have surgeries. I personally seek to get on hormone replacement. Well, I seek to get into therapy and then work through therapy and eventually get on hormone replacement therapy, where for me, I will be doing a weekly or bi-weekly shot of testosterone. Members diagnosed with gender dysphoria after joining the military can stay in the military if they don't require a change of gender and remain deployable. Gender dysphoria involves a conflict between a person's physical or assigned gender and the gender with which the person identifies, according to the American Psychiatric Association. Service members who were diagnosed with gender dysphoria before the effective date policy can still serve and receive medical treatment. Gender persons without gender dysphoria diagnosis or history can serve in their birth sex. Basically, you already have to be grandfathered into the military if you are trans and want to stay in the military. Not only stay in the military, but live as the identified gender that you identify as. So that's basically the gist of it. You had to be grandfathered in, before this was discussed in July of 2017. You already had to have gender dysphoria. I know there's going to be people from the LGBTQ plus community and the transgender community who are going to come on the video potentially and say, well, this is trans medicalists. And I might do a video discussing trans medicalism because I don't know everything and I don't claim to know everything. I'm not supposed to. But it would be, in my opinion, it would be pretty cool to have an open dialogue discussion about it. But this is the terminology and the requirements that we're discussing in this article is from a trans medicalist viewpoint, in the sense that being trans is a mental health diagnosis. Therefore, it's a mental health disorder, in my opinion, from viewing it. Because when I look at myself, I suffer from a lot of mental health issues because of my trans identity, and then also because of trauma and issues that I've dealt with throughout my life. But let's not get too personal right now. Let's go to another article, because again, I want to try to be more centered, not necessarily neutral, because clearly as a trans person, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I support trans people being able to serve in the military and identify as the gender that they see fit for themselves. I honestly find it odd how, Psych perspectives, I find it odd how Trump is all about making America great again, but then denying people the opportunity to serve the country, which is strange, because it's like, if that's about making America great again, is by having the largest standing army in the world, where we push millions and billions of dollars into, that we need to protect us at the borders. yet you're denying people from being able to do so. That's just my opinion, and like a, you know what I mean? But to another site article. So New York Times, right? I'm not gonna read all of this. I'll leave links to it so you can if you choose to. Oh, the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, the vote was 5-4, with court's 5 conservative members in the majority and its 4 liberal members in dissent. I always hear people say dissent is patriotic, which to me it is. You're not supposed to agree with everything. You're supposed to disagree with everything. Balance. The administration had also asked the justices to hear immediate appeals from trial court rulings blocking the policy. The court turned down those requests without comment. Again, it's a blow. It is a blow to the transgender people and the LGBTQ plus community and the LGBTQ plus activists. Like perspectives, you can also see why they're having the ban. I mean, to me, this is just another form of distraction. Because why else would we want to keep people who willingly want to fight for the country and serve the country in the military from doing so? What else is going on behind the scene? Because to me, this, along with the government shutdown and along with the we need a wall, and we need funding for the wall, so many other issues are, to me, are bigger distractions from major shit that's going on behind closed door that ultimately will impact all of our lives. But again, I could just be, you know, in a conspiracy theory, you know, whatever, take it how you want to take it. This is just, it's unfortunate. I'm gonna read this. Advocates for transgender rights welcome the court's decision not to hear immediate appeals from trial court rulings blocking policy. This is a quote from an activist. In declining to hear these cases, the Supreme Court saw through the administration's contrived efforts to gin up a national crisis. Jennifer Levi, director of the Transgender Rights Project of the GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders. And Jennifer goes on saying, unfortunately, she added, the courts stay out of the lower courts. Preliminary orders means that courageous transgender service members will face discharges while challenges to ban go forward. The Trump administration's cruel obsession with ridding our military of dedicated and capable service members because they happen to be transgender defies reason and cannot survive legal review. That is true, because legally this is what you call a true form of discrimination. How are you going to, a group who are willingly to die for this country, to serve them in the military, to make America great again? What's the purpose of that? Their job. Protecting America and the borders and the freedoms and the rights that we supposedly have. And yeah, I say supposedly because depending on who you talk to and their lived experiences, they might tell you they don't really have much freedom and rights, and then some might tell you they have a lot of freedom and rights. So it's really, I'm not gonna go on reading that. You guys can check that out for yourselves. I personally do see it as discrimination. I do see it as a distraction from major issues that ultimately are going to affect everybody, or most people, or the masses. You can agree, you can disagree. I didn't really give that many psych perspectives in this video because to me, some things are perspectives, but then there's also right and wrong. And like literally discriminating against people who want to serve the military is ridiculous in my opinion.